And indeed, Moses and his brother Aaron, they went to Pharaoh. And, you know, when they went to Pharaoh, first of all, you know, they went to Pharaoh, and remember how they had the staff? And, you know, they threw down the staff, and it became a snake. And then, of course, they threw down the other staff. Pharaoh's magicians threw down their staffs, and it became snakes. And what happened was the staff of God ate up their staffs. It should have been a sign. Should have been a sign to Pharaoh, but, you know, it wasn't. And then what happened, you know, of course they went to him and they said, YHVH says, let the people go so that they may serve me. And, you know, Pharaoh says, who's YHVH? I don't know YHVH, and I'm not letting the people go. And, of course, then what happened was that Moses and Aaron, they took the staff and put it in the Nile, and it turned to blood. And you know what? Pharaoh called his magicians, and they did the same thing. They turned water to blood. Then there were the frogs. And Moses and Aaron, they had put the staff in, and frogs came out of the Nile. And you know, Pharaoh, he called his magicians in, and they made more frogs. They were mimicking the things of God. They were using witchcraft and sorcery to mimic the things of God. They couldn't get rid of the frogs. Pharaoh had to call Moses and Aaron back in to be able to get rid of the frogs. And, you know, he said, YHVH says, let the people go. But Pharaoh just hardened his heart. He still wouldn't let the people go. Then there was lice. And, you know, there were lice everywhere. The lice were all in the people's hair. And Pharaoh called his magicians to do the same thing. And you know what? They couldn't do it. And they said, this is the finger of God. And at that point, and we'll look at our square, because at that point, God made a separation. God made a division. Because the gnats and the cattle disease and the bulls and the lightning and the hail and the locusts and the darkness, it didn't come in the land of the land of Goshen, where the people of Israel were living. So God had set his people apart. Over here was the land of Goshen. That's where all the Israelites lived. And so all these plagues were coming in the land of Egypt. But over here in the land of Goshen, it was not. So when there were locusts everywhere, no locusts here. And you know, when there was darkness over here, 3 days of darkness. It was light over here in the land of Goshen. The people could easily see that God had separated the Israelites. He'd set them apart. And God had made a distinction. And you know, we see God can make a distinction. And you know what? Pharaoh still would not let the people go. And God said, this one last thing, and he will let the people go. And God had told Moses, he said, tell the people they're to get a lamb. They're to get a lamb on the 10th day of the month. And they're to take that lamb, they're to bring the lamb in their home, make sure it doesn't have a spot or blemish, keep it in the home for 4 days. And on the 14th day of the month, they're to take the lamb, the little innocent lamb, and they're to slaughter the lamb. They're to just slice his neck right there, catch the blood in a basin, and they're to take the hyssop, and with the hyssop, they're to put the blood on the doorpost and the lintels of their home. And God was going to pass over, and he was going to kill the firstborn in every household. But those who had the blood on the door, the judgment of God would pass over them. That night, there was a great cry in Egypt, because in every Egyptian household there was a death. The death of the firstborn in every Egyptian household. And you know what? After that, Pharaoh said to Moses and Aaron, you may let the people go. Take your flocks, take your herds, take your children. You can go. You can go and worship YHVH. Go.